This blog post explores the philosophical confluence of quantum physics, life philosophy, and mysticism. We are currently saturated with mass-market books on quantum physics, which have, regrettably, sensationalized the topic. These authors have often attempted to interpret spiritual subjects using erroneous principles of quantum physics and flawed quantum mechanics. Consequently, many genuine physicists regard metaphysics with significant caution and skepticism. Personally, I began my journey only with works authored by physicists who intentionally sought to build a bridge between these two realms. These works are neither strictly physics textbooks nor purely metaphysical tracts. Rather, they serve as crucial bridge-building texts. They provide a foundation of common sense, instilling the necessary confidence for transitioning toward a metaphysical life, and they help to alleviate the natural apprehension associated with this transition. We see a constant proliferation of popular science literature, predominantly consumed by those grounded in the modern empirical sciences. Intellectually, however, we must acknowledge that these empirical sciences represent merely the historical trajectory of metaphysics. Furthermore, metaphysics holds primacy and a greater urgency than physical science. The study of physics is unending, yet metaphysics is not. Why shouldn't the theory of relativity be viewed as an ontological problem? This concept, deeply rooted in Anatolian esotericism and Sufism, symbolizes the idea, I take from the heavens and bring to the earth. This signifies drawing knowledge from the subconscious, the metaphysical realm, and bringing it into the physical world. Even Aristotle pursued this approach. The same meaning is evident in the central figures of Plato and Aristotle within Raphael Sanzio's The School of Athens. Why, then, should we understand quantum physics? Knowledge of physics is not solely for the invention of technological products. It is essential for comprehending the physical world we inhabit. Therefore, one might consider the philosophy of quantum physics, despite my reluctance to draw inaccurate analogies, as a kind of governing law. Why shouldn't it encompass human nature and the spiritual principles that govern us? While quantum physics studies subatomic particles, we cannot assert that its influence is absent at the macro level. The foundations of quantum mechanics were laid in the 20th century, and two landmark theories truly reshaped our understanding: relativity and quantum theory. Our very definition of matter, time, space, and even consciousness has been fundamentally altered. Classical or Newtonian physics began in the 1600s. Let us discuss the key distinctions. According to our current conscious experience, the perception of time flows from the past to the future, a notion affirmed by the classical physics of Newton. However, quantum physics revealed this to be inaccurate. According to quantum theory, time is fundamentally the instant. That is, every moment contains both the past and the future within itself. This can be summarized as sealed time, time within time, or the future time we create in meditation. Crucially, the effects of all our past and future actions, whether good or ill, are the consequence of what we do in those moments. I acknowledge that this assertion contradicts the principle of causality and runs against common sense, but the mind will adjust to it over time. To offer a simpler analogy, you experienced a situation at the age of 20 because of a decision you would make later at the age of 30. Looking back at things we label as good, bad, wrong, or right in the long term, we often conclude, it's a good thing that happened. The problem of destiny and free will is a both/and theory according to both Aristotelian logic and quantum mechanics. Our free will both exists and does not exist. Destiny both exists and does not exist. Sometimes our other bodies generate chaos. This is not necessarily detrimental to our long-term spiritual evolution, even if it seems negative at the time. In classical Newtonian physics, nature is ordered and deterministic. Determinism is the doctrine that the functioning of the universe and its events are rigidly determined by scientific laws, and that the occurrence of these predetermined events is obligatory. In short, it is closed to surprises and miracles, and posits an absolute phenomenon. However, nature does not possess such an extremely mechanistic structure. According to quantum mechanics, indeterminism holds true, indicating a freer structure. Nature is complex. Yes, both chaos and order coexist. The two are like two sides of the same coin. Without chaos, there would be no order, and without order, there would be no chaos. Physics defines energy simply as the capacity to perform work. Individuals who can manipulate energies with their bodies can acquire sanctioning power. Richard Feynman was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1965 for his discovery of virtual photons, which, despite being light, are not visible. Every human being has an energy body, or aura, surrounding their physical body. Tachyons interact faster than the speed of light and influence the physical world. They essentially create order. The universe in quantum physics, the physical world we inhabit, is multidimensional, and what is called time is actually the fourth dimension. The existence of tachyons enables extrasensory perception. This contradicts the principle of causality in conventional science, and these interactions cannot be measured with today's technological instruments. Yet, as one discovers psychic properties and their metaphysical experiences increase, this knowledge becomes self-evident. The empirical sciences are insufficient here. Science is not only comprised of materialist approaches. Studying the history of the occult world reveals the immense importance of the occult sciences and alchemy. Even Sir Isaac Newton devoted his life to alchemy. The term realm refers not only to the material, physical world but also to the human soul and the metaphysical realm. We have our individual self and other consciousnesses. The human psyche cannot be restricted to the ID, ego, and superego models of psychological science. Attaining perfection, the state of the perfect human mentioned in Sufism, is an upper-level consciousness dimension. Roughly speaking, a human is a bio-psycho-social psychic structure. Biology accounts for the physical characteristics, the psychosocial aspect is the spiritual characteristic, and then there are individuals with genuine psychic powers. All human beings are interconnected. The principle of the unity of being is true. We are even connected to God, the universal main source energy. We state this not as a philosophical discourse, but as an inference drawn from the philosophy of quantum physics. The main factor that lowers our frequency and intermittently severs our connection with the universal soul is the ego in human relationships. The term evolution is fundamentally an esoteric teaching. Those who strengthen their connection with the universal soul experience fewer problems in the physical world. While the theory of relativity asserts that there can be no effect faster than light, the double-slit experiment clearly established that light is both a wave and a particle, a finding replicated many times. From this, we can even draw inferences about states of meditation and ecstasy. Einstein's theory of relativity and the subsequent quantum theory profoundly shook our belief in a singular reality. String theory, multi-dimensions, and multiverses all indicate not a single materialistic reality, but a life structured by multiple realities. Humanity should exist simultaneously in both the physical world and the metaphysical realm. Naturally, every individual has a personal timeline according to their own evolution. The double-slit experiment and the Copenhagen interpretation assert that there is no reality independent of the observer, thereby rejecting the materialist, mechanistic worldview. There are faster-than-light interactions between photons. In Sufi teachings, there are layered states of the soul. The first is the commanding soul, known as nafs al-amara, which is purely automatic, the automaton human. It is the ego, self-centered and retaliatory. However, one must strive to behave humanely. This can transform the other person and elevate one's own frequency. The level of the commanding soul must first be transcended. People in this dimension of consciousness live their entire lives focused on securing a job, nourishment, clothing, and shelter, a stage to be overcome. The current endeavors of modern science operate under the rules of objectivity, locality, positivism, and reductionism. Yet, these key cornerstones collapsed under the weight of quantum mechanics. I will explain them individually in subsequent posts. Although technological development until now has been based on these rules, quantum theory has experimentally refuted these foundations repeatedly. Life is not only about technological progress. While it's true that you cannot even begin a journey without quantum theory, everything from navigation onwards is explained and invented with it, this does not mean we should neglect its philosophy. Astrology is important and distinct from astronomy, but the real issue lies with esoteric astrology. Many astrologers neglect the genuine wisdom behind their craft. The universe is a holistic web of energy. Entanglement. The 2022 Nobel Prize was awarded for research in this field. As the famous theoretical physicist Fred Alan Wolf once said, when asked if one can hear from their dead father, the main issue is not whether he is dead or alive, but whether he wishes to speak to you. The double-slit experiment tells us that the wave function collapses when observation is made. This includes sincere and intense emotions like love. When this happens, information travels to the spiritual structure of that person, and they feel it in the physical world. This sounds contradictory, but many people experience various psychic and parapsychological states. The most advanced of these were the dervishes, Gnostics, and prophets. Man is also an intuitive, metaphysical being. Evolution continues, and it is not only a biological phenomenon. With the development of artificial intelligence, the modern world must now turn to metaphysics, the education of gnosis. There are serious worldview differences between modern science and gnosis. Science is often the opposite of gnosis. It is mere knowledge, not wisdom. The wise person is a Gnostic or Arif, who lives metaphysics in their daily life. The Gnostic receives the knowledge of wisdom. Yunus Emre says, knowledge is to know knowledge, knowledge is to know the self. He subtly states that knowledge is to know wisdom itself. This leads to gnosis. Self-knowledge is related to the esoteric aspect of knowing the self. Otherwise, one reads books for years in vain. The valuable summary of science and philosophy is gnosis. It is wisdom, not mere knowledge. Religions have esoteric and exoteric aspects. The esoteric aspect is crucial, for the heaven and hell referenced by religions are not destinations after we die, but realms we enter before we die. There is no reality completely independent of us. According to the Copenhagen interpretation, by meditating, we change the reality outside by collapsing the wave function. This is no longer philosophy, but physical metaphysics. Even Aristotle based his physics and biology on metaphysics. Plato was an initiate, and he concentrated more intensely on metaphysics than Aristotle. The mind has its own degrees, levels, and hierarchy. Fractal geometry is more successful in describing natural structures. It is more advanced than classical Euclidean geometry. To escape the chaos of the physical world and attain happiness, one must reach the consciousness of unity, or Wadat. If a person uses their right brain, freed from the pressure of rational intelligence, the mind opens up, accessing information that rational thought cannot reach. Their education can even be accelerated through study in the astral realm. Esoteric initiations fall into this category. One can even receive news from the future. This is possible and is not polytheism. Religions have esoteric teachings precisely because the general populace cannot grasp such a high level of consciousness. The prophet was, in essence, human. Awareness is knowing that everything is consciousness and that this consciousness is constantly evolving. Humans both discover existing things and invent new things. These are two different acts. According to quantum mechanics, the observer and the observed affect each other. Concepts are, in fact, both man-made and not. God is both transcendent and immanent. Knowledge belongs to both the physical and metaphysical realms. The most common error is believing we experience these realms after death, rather than now. We must live them now. These are intertwined realms. Even Einstein's theory of relativity acknowledges that the speed of light is a limiting speed, valid only under certain conditions. Thus, it is not absolute. He actually had a spiritual connection and mystical training. These are no longer conspiracy theories. We know that Newton and Nikola Tesla were intensely interested in occultism and alchemy. There is even the law of desire in the universe, which manifests if we undertake the necessary actions in the physical world. According to string theory, there is an 11-dimensional space with a 4-dimensional spacetime structure. Mathematical models have proven that the other 7 dimensions have become invisible. The British biologist Rupert Sheldrake argued for the existence of a shared morphic field influencing the behavior of species during biological development, offering an alternative to Darwin's model. Darwin was correct on some points. He argued that those who survive and transfer their consciousness to the next life are not the physically strongest or most intelligent, but those who can adapt to changing environmental conditions. With the development of artificial intelligence, the modern world must now advance toward metaphysics, the education of gnosis. Modern science operates under the principle of falsifiability. Scientists themselves acknowledge that modern science will always remain insufficient in explaining the truth of things through mathematics and geometry. Using this modern scientific method, a person can never fully recognize their self. They cannot penetrate their own reality, just as they cannot penetrate the reality of objects, a pursuit which they often deem unnecessary. The Gnostic understands. They perceive the truth of things through initiatory meditation. Scholars attain this knowledge through reading, but the Gnostics would live it, embodying the experience. They lived simultaneously on the horizon of physics and metaphysics, a mystical life. There is no death. In fact, there is only transformation and evolution. Rumi, Yunus Emre, and René Guénon are important figures. In the following chapters, I will share direct, practical information for daily life. In Sufism, there are layers of knowledge as well as layers of the soul, such as certainty of knowledge, certainty of sight, and certainty of truth. Insufficient research has been done on what Freemasonry may have borrowed from Sufism. The Arabic saying translates to, "He who knows his self, knows his Lord." Self-knowledge has its own esoteric languages. Sufism defines levels of the soul such as the contented soul, the pleased soul, the pleasing soul, and the self-reproaching soul. The highest level is the perfect human. Having faith is not merely believing in God. Belief is a stage to be transcended. Faith is trusting the insights that come through our psychic abilities, such as clairvoyance and clairaudience, forms of mystical and metaphysical experience. The works of Mahmud Eril-Kilik and Duquesne Kundioglu are important. For practical metaphysics, other works are required. Magic serves as the overarching title for these disciplines. Hermetic knowledge is esoteric, or closed knowledge. The Enlightenment, the Consciousness Revolution, and the Renaissance in the modern world are all linked to an individual's evolution toward practical metaphysics. While we came to experience this material world, we must never lead a purely materialistic life here. There is a serious difference between reading a great variety of books and reading the right books in depth. Just as there is a difference between erudition and wisdom. Few people can truly control the subconscious mind. It is not possible to make changes in the physical world through ordinary meditations. This is where physical world initiations come in. The special theory of relativity also supports faster-than-light interactions. Technological instruments have experimental limitations, and it is possible to directly experience other dimensions. A true yoga master can provide a high-level occult experience. Kundalini. Although quarks have not yet been seen in the laboratory, their existence is recognized by modern science. The Higgs boson was scientifically proven around 2013, and entanglement was confirmed in 2022 with the Nobel Prize. Please make sure to subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss an upload. And if you'd like to go the extra mile in supporting the channel, the join button is now live.